Hey everyone, Dr. Jason Deitch here, and welcome to another edition of Amplified Live. Today we have a really exciting conversation to be had with one of my great friends and mentors, somebody who I have the privilege to work with now as I'm working with Life University, and so is Dr. Jerry Clum. Jerry, thanks for taking time today to talk about something I think is really, really cool and exciting.
Thank you, Jason. I agree. We're on to some good stuff here.
So let's start the conversation with the Octagon, specifically the Center for Compassion, Integrity, and Secular Ethics, has just announced this week that the Dalai Lama has basically penned an endorsement to say, good job, great job, Life University, for doing something that's needed to be done. Share with us a little bit about what is Life University doing under your direction, Dr. Guy Riekman's obviously vision. What's going on that the Dalai Lama is actually involved saying, kudos to you?
Yes, well, thank you. And you're absolutely right. I'm very cautious about paraphrasing His Holiness the Dalai Lama, but basically you conveyed exactly what he was talking about. It was support for the effort. And the effort that he has congratulated the university on and the Octagon on is the establishment of a project called the Chillon Project. And the Chillon Project is essentially an effort to bring undergraduate education, a full degree program, to a women's prison in northern Georgia. It's the Arendelle Women's Prison in Alto, Georgia. And the goal would be to have 15, the goal is, I shouldn't say will be, the goal is to have 15 women initially enrolled in the program to pursue an undergraduate degree in a specially designed program that's entitled Positive Human Development and Social Change. Now, there's some very exciting things about the degree offering itself in terms of its content and so on. And we're looking at persons who have lived in a situation of incarceration, the opportunities for self-esteem to be shattered, the opportunity for self-worth to be destroyed, and so on, in that environment or before that environment that led to them being there to begin with, is very, very high. The reality that going out into the world as a citizen after a period of incarceration doesn't mean that everybody has forgotten that you were once in prison. Mm-hmm. And they're going to need an entrepreneurial capacity about them to make their way in the world. So the exciting elements of this thing involve not only the degree itself, but another very important detail of this, and that is the fact that Life has decided that in fairness, not only to the persons who are receiving, the inmates who are receiving their education through this program, but also to the correctional staff who deal with the inmates on a day-in, day-out basis, that they should be extended the same capacity and privilege and opportunity for themselves or their family members to pursue an education. So Dr. Riekman agreed almost instantaneously to doubling the original budget of this project so that we could provide an equal dollar-for-dollar scholarship level for not only the women incarcerated in the prison, but an equal dollar amount for the correctional officers who facilitate their circumstances on a day-in, day-out basis in the prison environment. Now, we think this falls in the category of common sense, that it's very, you remember your initial discussions in algebra, whatever you do to one side of the equation, you have to do to the other side of the equation. And we can't change the discussion on one side of the equation as far as the inmate goes without changing the discussion on the other side as far as the correctional officer goes. And so part of our hope is that the tide will lift all boats. And as the attitudes and the understandings and the perspectives of individuals change, as they embrace new ideas and new concepts, and they pursue their education, that will filter out among the inmate community, and it will filter out among the correctional officer community, and will improve the overall environment, not just the circumstances of those 30 people, but the reality of the overall environment. It's a bold statement, and it's a bold undertaking, but we got to start someplace.
So there's, I mean, obviously, if the Dalai Lama is involved, this is more than just giving 30 people, some classes and a degree.
Yeah.
There's the way I understand this. There's really this is one of those real win-wins, and what I mean by that is, yes, on a humanistic level, like you said, we're doing the right thing on a humanitarian level. I mean, it's good. It's a good thing to do. But help me understand also the kind of the broader implications. And in fact, for those that may have some concern about, hey, why are we giving free education to those that have maybe done something bad? How is it that this actually has positive implications for everybody? I know there's a recidivism rate issue as it relates to those that receive an education versus those that don't, which are real dollar savings for everybody. Help us understand sort of the broader opportunity and bigger impact here.
Yeah, if we set aside the humanitarian consideration for everyone involved, and we begin with the premise that education is good for everybody. So we'll set that aside. But why is it good in this environment in a real crass, bottom line, dollars and cents world? One only has to look at the cost per day, per week, per month, per year for incarcerating an individual in a prison today and realize the savings to the citizenry if that person doesn't go back into prison after their tenure there has been completed. Well, the truth of the matter is, depending upon whose statistics you look at, the recidivism rate runs from 30 to 70%. And when you appreciate the fact that of the remarkable number of dollars that are involved to maintain a person in that environment, and the fact that you could take that expenditure out of the system and replace it with a minimal amount of cost associated with their education, and provide them with resources, knowledge, understanding that would equip them to get by in the world when they get out, where's the downside?
Everybody wins.
It's certainly, and I get the idea that, hey, listen, I'm working at a factory, I'm working 2 jobs to send my kid to college, and this person's going to college for free. It isn't right. Well, I understand that, and that's not wasted on me. But at the same time, every single day those people are in that prison environment, we're paying the bill as citizens.
The statistic you had mentioned about the difference, so you said 30 to 70% of those basically who are incarcerated end up back in jail at some point in the future, which means we're paying at least twice, if not 3 times, or ongoing. Compare that with those that have an education.
Oh, the recidivism rates are in the 2 to 3%.
2 to 3%.
2 to 3%. So the return, even if you use the most conservative number,
right,
the return is 10 to 1. And if you use the more optimistic number, it's 15 to 1.
Right.
And if you use the extreme number, we're dealing with 20s and 30s to 1 is the return. So in a pure economic standpoint, forget the humanity, just in a pure discussion of economics, I don't get where the problem is with trying to bring about this kind of change.
Yeah, it's one of those that's great for everyone if you really look at the numbers and realize giving and loving and serving and doing actually is good for them, and it actually is good for us too, let alone it being consistent and congruent with, I'll say, the vision of what our institution was founded on.
Absolutely.
Help us understand how this is part of the broader implication of the Octagon and what the Octagon is really all about.
Yes, thank you. Well, that discussion is now about a 7-year window. And it was just a little over 7 years ago that Dr. Riekman and his leadership group sat down and developed what they referred to as the 8 areas of inquiry that were going to be that would be the focus of the Octagon. And they ranged from integrity and citizenship to communication and relationship theory to philosophy of human existence, to leadership and entrepreneurship, belief systems and performance, contemporary scientific paradigms, integrative change, and learning theory. I left one out.
I understand it to be the world's greatest thinkers having the world's greatest conversations. Is it something like that?
In our wildest dreams, that's what it would be. That's right. That's exactly right. And obviously, that's a tremendous plate full of things to do. But you begin with a vision, and that was the vision, is that 30, 40, 50 years from now, there will be an octagon-shaped building on the Life University campus. It will house those great scholars that you talked about, and they will each be working in one of these 8 areas to whatever degree and extent I can't even imagine today. But that vision had to begin someplace, and the activity has to begin someplace. And so that started 7 years ago. I joined this program about 5 years ago and have served as the director over the past 5 years and continue to do so. And 3 years ago, Dr. Riekman came to us and said he appreciated the work we were doing, but felt like we needed to take a period of time, and he gave us a 5-year window and ask us to look specifically at the subjects of integrity and citizenship. And as we began to narrow in on that area of discussion, and we held the first couple of our conferences on those subject areas and with those emphases, we had all sorts of ideas that came forward. And one of them that did come forward was this concept that eventually emerged into the Chillon Project. And it came from one of the faculty members at Life who had an experience years ago in Boston, hearing His Holiness speak about the circumstances of the United States in the fact that we incarcerate a greater percentage of persons in our population than any other country in the world.
Wow.
Now, we're either more evil and bad than other people, or we're better at justice than other people, or something's not right.
Yeah.
The bottom line is it's an unsustainable system over time. And it breeds all the things we don't want to have bred in our society, and it reinforces all the things we don't want to have reinforced. And we need to find a way to change that. And throughout history, education has been the thing that changes that circumstance and that relationship. And so the idea came forward from Dr. Ozawa da Silva about would there be the possibility that Dr. Riekman might be interested in developing some type of an educational offering in a women's prison in which he was involved as a non-credit teacher for another program. And we talked about it a little bit, and after I listened to what he had in mind, my immediate comment was, Dr. Riekman is going to be all over this. And shortly thereafter, we went back and we sat down with Dr. Riekman, and in fact, he was. He saw the magic in it. He saw the value in it. He saw the opportunity in it, and it has moved forward from that point very, very quickly. Right now, we have entered an agreement with the Georgia Department of Corrections that is facilitating our involvement at Arendelle Women's Prison. We've had the cooperation from the highest levels of the Georgia Department of Correction to help us cause this to come to pass. Our stumbling block, and not really a stumbling block, it's just one more hurdle to be crossed in the process, is that the degree application and all of the activities around it are pending before the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, because in order to make this work, we need to make Arendelle Women's Prison a branch campus of Life University.
Wow.
And it's just not a matter of going up there and teaching some courses and awarding some credit. They are entitled to the same services and opportunities that any other student would have at the university if they are going to have a degree from the university.
Interesting.
And it's the exact same degree that will be offered in Marietta that will be offered in this environment. The students will have the same admissions requirements. They'll have the same expectations. They won't have the same study opportunities to freely walk in and out of libraries or browse the internet to the extent they like, but they will have online access, and it will be a hybrid approach to the curriculum. So assuming we get the SACS component of this thing completed, I should say, we anticipate later this year to begin offering this degree program at Arendelle. And then at the same time, we anticipate being able to offer the scholarships to the correctional officers and their families that they can begin their educational path at the same time these women do.
Wow.
So it's been a very exciting opportunity to be involved in just because of the good that could come from it. But for me, as a person who started out on the original faculty at Life and was involved with Dr. Williams before Life was founded, this is really a great bridge moment between the time and accomplishment of Dr. Riekman's time and the time and accomplishment of Dr. Williams's time. And the name of this project, the Chillon Project, comes from the poem The Prisoner of Chillon by Lord Byron that Dr. Williams used to quote almost endlessly. I can't remember a DE meeting where Sid wouldn't 2 or 3 or 4 times quote The Prisoner of Chillon and talk about the prisoner, making friends of the spider and the mice and learning to play with the rats and learning to see his bonds as his friends. And he talked about being torn from his home when he was released. And the idea, the poem closes and it says, "Alas, men came to set me free. Aside my bonds were cast. Even I regained my freedom with a sigh. So much the long communion tends to make us what we are." And our goal with the Chillon Project is to change the communion, is to change the dialogue, to change the communication, to change the inputs and the outputs in this process, and hopefully change the people that are part of it as we do that. Very bold. Some may shake their head and say, Pollyanna's alive and well.
Right.
Maybe so. Okay, maybe so. But if that's the worst thing anybody wants to say, let them have at it.
Right. Well, let's address that for a moment. I mean, Life College, now Life University, started off as a chiropractic college. And what do we say to those as the tagline now is the not so little university that's changing the world? How does this benefit chiropractors, the chiropractic profession? I mean, how do we speak to the chiropractors to really embrace this as something wonderful? I mean, this is congruent with the principles of to give, to love, to serve out of our abundance. It's doing good in the world. Is there anything that needs to be said as far as the benefits to chiropractic as a profession? Where do you see that? Well,
I think there is. The truth of the matter is anything that we do with the Chillon Project going to change the circumstances of a chiropractor in their office in Marietta, Georgia, or Hayward, California, or any place across the country on Monday morning? Probably not. Probably not. We might as well be candid about that. But at the same time, I don't think it's a bad thing for the profession for our flagship institution, the largest chiropractic program in the world, to also be a leader in changing the educational circumstances of persons who are disadvantaged not because of their health, but because of their circumstances in life. And I'm not suggesting that they got there by somebody taking advantage of them. People have made mistakes, and they have caused themselves to be in the circumstance they're in, one way or another. I don't know about you, but I'd rather not be defined by my worst day. And fortunately, you and I have had the privilege that our worst day isn't how we're known. Amen. You got that right. So for those people that are, and those people that really demonstrate a desire to not continue to be defined that way, but to redefine themselves in society, why shouldn't we help them?
Yeah.
And we as chiropractors, when you walk on campus and you go down to the main bell tower in the heart of the campus, what's there is a jail cell.
Interesting.
And what we're remembering are the chiropractors who went to jail, not for doing anything wrong, but for practicing chiropractic without a license and being accused of having practiced medicine without a license. And people that gave up their freedom so you and I could do what we do today as chiropractors. We have this very unusual tie to this world of incarceration that I think is unique to chiropractic, that I think among chiropractic educational institutions, life has held the importance of this and the memory of this so that young people coming into the profession don't see the profession as it is today only, but see it in the context of the continuum over time of what it has been, where it is today, and most importantly, where it can be tomorrow. And this contribution that Life is making through the Chillon Project, I think holds great potential for the institution as a whole and the chiropractic program as the largest program within that institution. And I agree with you. Like I said, this isn't going to put a new patient in anybody's office in any state of the union on any given day.
At some point in the future, I can envision that because of the implications of doors opening. But tomorrow morning or next week, probably true.
In that 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, who knows where this will go? Yeah. We're not the first people to ever think that prisoners need education and on some level deserve education. And we're not going to be the last. Yeah. But we are approaching it with some very creative strategies in terms of curriculum, in terms of program design, and including the correctional officers, things like that haven't been done to our knowledge in other areas and other institutions. And who knows, maybe that little university could be doing something really remarkable. Yeah. And it would warm my heart beyond imagination to think that we were there at the start of all this, and that we had a chance to participate in that, and that down the road, who knows? And the what could be component of this, I get chills over.
Yeah, I actually do too. We have to, of course, acknowledge Dr. Williams for founding the college, and Dr. Riekman for basically, taking what was almost defunct, basically, and turning it into what it is right now is nothing short of miraculous. It's tough sometimes for people who live in today's day-to-day world to really appreciate visionaries. And usually they just get, criticized because people just don't see it. They just, literally, that's visionaries, right? They don't see the vision. So it's remarkable. And I'll sort of almost, in closing, kind of suggest, as we opened this, that the mere fact that we now have the Dalai Lama, and I consider him, His Holiness, a remarkable figure in humanity and human history, to now be recognizing Life University, which he obviously knows is connected to chiropractic care, certainly elevates chiropractic to a higher level with, I think of as influencers who can open doors and establish our messages in ways that we can't do for ourselves. So for so many reasons. Jerry, if people want to support this project, if they want to get involved, where do they go? What do they do? How can they donate? What are the action steps? Sure.
The Chillon Project, as I said, is organized under the Center for Compassion, Integrity, and Secular Ethics. And if persons want to visit the website, and I need to double check, make sure I get this right, it's life.edu/CCISE. life.edu/CCISE, Center for Compassion, Integrity, and Secular Ethics. And they can learn more about the program. They can learn more about how the organization is structured. They could subscribe to our newsletter. And if they would wish to contribute to this process, right now Life University is bearing the expense of this. We think that there will be people all across the country in all sorts of different communities who will see the merit in what we're doing and will come to our aid and help us in this process. But in the meantime, Life has put itself out there to start the ball rolling, and we could use the help. And so the opportunities to donate are there on the website. There's a email link that if anyone has any questions they'd like to drop our way, we'd be very happy to answer them. And if you'd like to chat with me about the program or some aspect of the program, please drop me an email and I'll be happy to call you back. Give me your phone number and I'll be back in touch with folks. And I promise I'll call every single one that contacts me that wants to chat. I'll follow up with them.
Right on. Well, I give you the utmost respect and gratitude. You think of names like Doctors Without Borders, Habitat for Humanity. These have become cultural icons with the face of being philanthropic and making a difference and volunteering and being human. And this to me is one of those projects that I just don't know how it isn't a really great thing. Besides the obvious, educating people that need it, both the prisoners and the guards. I mean, there's just so much to like about this project. Thank you for sharing some insight into it. If you're curious or want to learn more, please visit the website. If you're feeling generous, please make a donation, support the project. Thank you for all you do. Act the Octagon. I know this is one of many conversations to be had about all kinds of amazing things that I know you're up to and the Octagon is up to. And thanks again to the vision of Dr. Riekman and Life University making all of this possible. Jerry, thanks for your time. Any closing comments?
No, thank you, my friend.
All right.
I appreciate it very much. Martin Luther King is often quoted as saying that real education is about character. And that's what we want to be about, is real education and changing the character of the individuals that are involved. And if you think that's something that's worthy of help and support, join us on the path. Thank you.
Right on. Thanks for joining us.